Suspense, brought to you by Warman Scared Scriptless Players, the City of Warman's only community theater company. Tonight's episode of Suspense is called The Visitor, produced by Alan Neiman and Tom Neiman and directed for Warman Scared Scriptless Players by Judy Herbert.
It was around 2 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon. I was writing my usual group, counterman at Al's Coffee Pot, row 22 on Baltimore. Not a bad job for a green guy. $18 a week and my meals. But I was aiming to be a short-order cook when I was really getting the hang of things. Well, as I say, it was the usual afternoon. Not especially busy, but, busy enough.
Hey, no kidding, Mac. Where's our Western sandwiches?
Oh, here you are. What do you have, mister?
Oh, a ham on rye and a cup of coffee, bud.
Coming right up. Ham on rye and draw one.
Look, kid, I'd like to talk to you.
Yeah? About what?
Have you got a minute?
I guess so. Al, take the counter, will ya? I'm gonna take some coffee.
Okay.
So what's on your mind, mister?
Look, can we go in here?
Yeah.
I've been looking for a long time for someone who looks like you.
Yeah?
But your name could be Bud Owen, couldn't it?
Well, why should it?
Well, that's not what I asked. I'm looking for a boy named Bud Owen.
For what?
Disappeared from his home about 3 years ago. Boy from my town. He'd be about your age now, about 18.
17?
Well, that'll do. Well, his folks have been just worried sick about him. Everyone else gave him up for dead, and I heard you were working here, Bud.
Yeah? Who told you?
Oh, no one told me. I got a note. Anonymous. Well, you didn't write it, did you?
No, I didn't write it.
I think I'd have recognized you anyway. You're a lot taller, of course, and you look older, Bud.
Well, anyone would, wouldn't they?
Same ears, though.
I call them my wings.
Oh, you remember who I am, of course. Mac Burrell, used to be chief of police.
Pleased to meet you again, Mr. Burrell.
Well, Bud Owen. A lot of know-it-alls are sure going to be surprised.
Surprised? At what?
What, to see you. Edgerton is certain to a man you were drowned 3 years ago off White's Pier.
I was drowned, huh?
Yeah.
Hey, look, Mr. Burrell, just what's your proposition here?
Well, Bud, I want you to come home again. With me.
Oh.
Well, of course, things have changed some in Edgerton in 3 years, but not too much. And if you take it easy, and if you have a friend to help you over the rough spots, you'll feel right back at home in no time.
I see.
Working in a diner. Why, you're depriving yourself of everything a boy could want. A good home, lovely parents, wealthy parents.
Yeah, you make it sound kind of nice at that, Mr. Burrell. But what about you?
Why, Bud, didn't you know that your father has offered a $10,000 reward for anyone who finds you?
No, I didn't know that.
$10,000. I think of your folks. Think how your poor mother has suffered. Think how happy it'd make them.
Well, Mr. Burrell, if you really think it'll be all right for me to come home...
Sure, well, it may be a little tough at first, all the excitement, people staring at you, but that won't last long. Well, you gotta expect some excitement.
Yeah, I suppose it was an event, having a hometown boy drown.
Drown, boy? Why, they thought you were murdered.
After I talked to Mr. Burrell for an hour or so, the whole thing sounded pretty darn good. We took the 5 o'clock train to Edgerton. On the way, Mr. Burrell gave me the lowdown on what had been going on for 3 years, how the town thought I was murdered, and how my mother and David Cunningham, my stepfather, just wouldn't give up hope that I was still alive. And he told me how my mother hadn't changed anything in my room. She was so sure I'd come back. Although she bought new stuff for the rest of the house, new rugs, a couch, things like that. Mr. Burl described it so plain I could almost see it. Well, by the time we got to Edgerton, I was feeling pretty sad for my mother. And if I thought I could make her happy, even if it was tough for me, it was worth a try.
Well, brace yourself, youngster. This is it.
Yeah, sure. I'm okay, Mr. Burl.
Is that you, Burl?
Yeah, and look who's with me.
Oh, Bud.
Hello, Father.
Come in, Bud. Come in. Here, let me take your suitcase. Here's your mother, Bud.
Hello, Mother.
Bud? Oh.
Judith, this time it's really Bud. He's come back to us.
Oh, Bud.
It's all right, darling. It's all right now.
Oh, my big baby, you're so tall, I can hardly kiss you.
Come on, Judith. Let's go into the living room. Come along, Burl.
Yes.
I always knew I'd be silly when you came back. Here, let me push your hair down.
Stop.
Now you look more like my Bud.
Gosh, I wouldn't have recognized this room. Isn't the couch new?
Yes, and the rugs and the drapes.
Drapes?
I don't know how we'll ever be able to thank you, Burl.
Oh, why, seeing Judith so happy, it's a reward enough.
Yes, that reminds me. Well, drop into my office tomorrow and we'll take care of that other, more tangible reward.
Well, Mother, I don't know how to begin. I mean, to tell you how sorry
Don't tell me anything, darling. Nothing matters except that you're back.
That's the spirit, Judith. That's the spirit.
Goodness, your right hand, Bud. It's all bandaged.
Oh, that's nothing much. I burned it working in the diner. It's really nothing.
Oh, darling.
Well, folks, it's been a long day for an old man. I guess I'll run along.
Right away, Mr. Burrow. Well, you just got here.
Oh, you'll be seeing plenty of me, Bud. Right now, you should be wanting to get acquainted with your folks again. I'll see you tomorrow, Dave.
Oh, yes, of course. Well, have you noticed, Judith, how deep Bud's voice is now?
Why, yes. It was just a little pipe when he left. But it was beginning to break, wasn't it, Bud?
Gosh, I guess so. Sure must have sounded awful.
And he shaves, David. Every day, Snooky.
Gosh, not quite.
Now, please, David. I don't think that's so funny.
Well, I can't help it.
Why, that sounds like Ellen. Isn't that nice? Let her in, David.
Oh, certainly. Sure.
Ellen Woods.
Why, who else, Bud?
Does she still live next door?
Of course, the Woods have always lived there. Ellen, dear, we have such a surprise.
Oh, my word, Angel! This is something fabulous! Oh, let me kiss you, you big mug!
Hey, ouch! Take it easy.
Oh, Bud, you're just gigantic! A regular beanpole! Oh, Bud, I can't wait for Joe to see you.
Joe?
I called him just as soon as I heard. He's coming over here. It's All right, Mrs. Cunningham?
Oh, of course, Ellen.
Sure.
I'd forgotten. It'll mean so much to Joe. You know about Joe, Bud?
Yeah, Mr. Burrow told me. I didn't know before.
This town's got a lot to make up to that young man.
My folks wouldn't let me see Joe, Bud.
Yeah?
Well, they thought that Joe was the last person who saw you. And then, well, he admitted you'd quarreled.
But your mother and I had I never had a moment's doubt, Bud.
Oh, no.
And I'm thankful for that.
Hey, I think I hear Joe coming now. Joe, it's true. Bud's here.
Ellen phoned. I ran all the way. She said that,
Yeah, Joe. It's me.
Yeah, guess it is.
Well, pal, I hear I owe you an apology or something.
Skip it, pal.
Now, Joe, we know how hard it's been for you. Only now it's over.
Didn't matter, Mrs. Cunningham. I've learned to put up with a lot.
Judith, dear, let's go upstairs. Let's give the young folks a chance by themselves.
All right, David, but don't stay up too long, Bud.
No.
You'll need lots of sleep.
I won't, Mother.
And don't forget to turn off the lights.
Okay.
Good night, children.
Good night.
Good night.
Well, what do we do? Chew the rug? Chew the fat?
Suit yourself.
Joe, don't talk that way to Bud. You might remember he's my friend, and he certainly was yours.
Yeah, I guess he was.
No. Now look, Joe, I can see you're sorry at me, but don't take it out on Ellen.
Kindly don't start messing between Ellen and me.
Joe, please.
Okay, do I have to make a speech? So you're home now, Bud, and I'm the last one to kick, but when you toss it all off by saying you owe me an apology or something, well, maybe it's not easy to remember where we were friends.
Well, I didn't know what to say.
I know I tried to remember we were friends when the whole town was sure I'd killed you. And I tried to remember it when the draft board listed me as undesirable because they thought I was guilty.
Yeah, but I mean...
I even tried to remember we were friends when for 3 years people crossed the street so they wouldn't have to speak to me. And people got up and walked out of the room when I came in, and when things got...
Oh, gosh, Joe, I didn't realize that. I am sorry, Joe. Honest.
Joe, you should be the first one to walk around town with Bud. Tomorrow morning. If you both like it, I'll go with you.
If it's all right with Bud.
Is it? Boy, I'm gonna need company.
Then it's a date, huh?
No kidding, Bud. I'm glad you're home, fella. No hard feelings?
Oh, gosh, no, Joe.
So long, Bud.
So long.
Bud,
Yes, Mother?
are you coming up to bed now, dear?
Yeah, I might as well.
You knew Bud about Trixie?
Trixie?
Do you realize you never even asked about her?
Oh, Trixie, that's right. Yeah, I did.
Well, after all, she was your dog. And you know what they say about a boy and a dog. Oh, poor thing. When you didn't come back, she just wandered off.
No, gee, yeah. Yeah, that's tough, all right.
And you didn't even ask about her. Oh, but I guess you can't be expected to remember everything.
No, I guess I can. remember everything. I went upstairs to my room. It was just like Mr. Burrell told me it would be. Everything seemed to have gone all right so far. I undressed and turned out the light, but before I got into bed, I locked the door. Just in case.
Warman Scared Scriptless players have been entertaining theater lovers for 11 years. But due to COVID-19, like so many other artists and performers, we were forced to postpone what would have been our 12th season. If you enjoy what you see here this evening, and if you're financially able, please consider donating so that we can help keep community theater alive in Central Saskatchewan. To donate, head to our website, warmanssp.ca. There you'll also find our Etsy store where you can get a growing collection of merchandise. And don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter so you can stay up to date on the latest information on future shows and events. Thank you for listening. And now, back to the show.
And now, Warman Scared Scriptless Players continues with our presentation of The Visitor.
Gosh, I guess I'm kind of late for breakfast.
Oh, that's all right, darling. We know you needed to sleep.
Sit right in your old spot, bud.
Yeah, sure.
Your mother and I have been mooning over old pictures of you, son.
Yes, really, bud. Except for the ears and, something around the eyes. You've changed so that I can hardly recognize you. Now look, here's the last picture before you went away. Why, it's almost frightening the way you've grown.
Oh, Judith, darling, you wouldn't want the boy to be a midget, would you?
Oh, well, no.
Sure, he's taller, but look at his hair, the way he stands.
Yeah, I sure was a goon. You should have been glad to get rid of me.
Oh, no.
And look, bud, what else I found?
What?
All your school compositions from the first grade on. Here's one you wrote on Alexander the Great.
Ouch. Mother, don't be so careless with those things, or I'll die of blushing.
Why, bud, I think this was very good for your age. You were barely 14 when you wrote it. See? It's marked B, so it can't be too terrible.
Your least little scribble is a great thing to your mother.
Oh, of course.
Well, I'd better get off to the office. Drop in to see me if you have time, bud.
Sure, Father. I'll do that.
Good. Goodbye, Judith, darling. I'll be home for dinner.
Goodbye, David. How about some hot coffee, bud?
Oh, yes, thanks.
There, Snooky. Bud, there's something important I want to discuss with you. It's about my will.
Your will?
You know how your father, well, David, is about my money, Bud? He never wanted to touch it or even have me put it in my will. He's so proud about things like that, and I do have so much more than he ever will.
Well, sure. I remember. How much money is it, anyway?
Why, you know, Bud. There's about $150,000 your grandfather left.
Yeah.
Then there were the 4 houses on Elm Street that Aunt Caroline left, and the income from them. I haven't used any of it, so it amounts to quite a lot by now.
Yeah, it must be at that.
Well, after you left, even though David didn't want me to, I changed the will, leaving everything to him.
Sure, that sounds fine to me.
Yes, but now you're back. I think the best thing would just be to turn it all over to you now. Set up a trust fund, You could use the income when you start college, and later, maybe you'll want to set yourself up in some kind of business. And I know it'll please David.
But, Mother, jeez whiz. It sure is swell of you, but don't you think you should wait?
Wait for what, darling?
Well, until you get to know me better.
What?
Oh, well, I mean, gosh, I wouldn't know what to do with all that money. Maybe I messed things up.
Oh, silly. The bank takes care of everything. It always has for me. Now all you have to do is sign these papers here.
Sign? But I can't. Mother, use my hand, the bandage.
Oh, isn't that a shame? I forgot you couldn't write.
I ought to be all right in a couple of days, and then I can take the bandage off and, you know.
Oh, somebody's whistling for you, bud. My, that sounds like old times.
Oh, it's Ellen and Joe. Oh, they're going to take me out and show me around the town. Well, I guess I'll have to face the music.
You know you'll love it. You're going to be a regular hero.
Yeah. But I don't feel like much of a hero now.
Hey, Bud. Bud Owen, wait!
Now you're in for it, Bud.
Oh, Bud, you're really real, and you've grown but divine.
Hey, you're joking me.
Oh, I've just been telling everybody you're back. It's too sensational. It's like having a new boy in town. And do we need some?
Oh, gosh. I shouldn't think you'd have any trouble. Why, you're cuter than ever.
Oh, listen to him. He's got a line. Isn't that something?
Bud, the best thing you ever called her before was buzzard egg.
Well, gosh. I called her something besides that once in a while.
Oh, you did call her Mary Louise?
Oh, of course I called her that. Gee, it's swell to see you, Mary Louise.
Bud Owen, you bad boy. Are you gonna recognize me or aren't you?
Oh, gee, it's good to see you. How are you anyway?
Well, you're not too grown up to kiss old Miss Callahan the way you always did.
Oh, I'll say I'm not Mrs. Callahan here. Mwah.
Oh, now, that's better. I heated enough bottles for you and washed enough of your diapers too. So don't try to catch me putting on airs.
Oh, no, ma'am, I won't.
Well, goodbye for now.
Goodbye.
What's the matter? Did you recognize her?
Oh, Mrs. Callahan? Well, of course I did.
Oh, then why didn't you call her what you always used to? Couldn't you see she was sore?
Yes, I did.
Bud, you used to call her Aunt Kelly.
Well, I couldn't believe it, but I daren't refute the evidence of my senses. It's the Owen boy, Bud Owen.
Well, I'm glad to see you, sir.
Oh, I just saw your mother, heard you were back. Oh, she told me she was bringing you down to my office for a day or two.
Oh, yes, she told me.
Your mother is 1 in a million, young man. She thinks only of your welfare. I hope you've learned to appreciate her.
Oh, yes, sir, I have.
Well, I just wanted to check on the news, and no nonsense, my boy. You do as your mother says.
Yeah. Goodbye. Hey, what did he mean by no nonsense?
Don't you know?
Oh, well, I guess so. Well, Mother told me this morning we had to go to the lawyer's office.
Oh, Bud.
I've been waiting for you to outsmart yourself, and this is it.
Well, I don't get it.
You sure don't, Bud.
Give him a chance, Joe.
Because it happens that's not Mr. Reedy, the lawyer, but Dr. Sterling, the dentist.
I talked fast. Alan took my side, and we got Joe calmed down, but I knew he was going to watch me like a hawk from then on. That afternoon, Ellen, Joe, and Mary Louise got a real snazzy idea to go to the beach. My father knocked off work and drove us down, sort of to celebrate my homecoming. It was a really hot day, so when we got there, the others made a beeline right for the water, but I didn't because I bandaged my hand. I stayed around the beach club near the pool. When it got to get dark, we all dressed up and went down to White's restaurant for a seafood dinner. Then we walked out on the pier. The same pier where I was supposed to have been murdered. I remember saying something about taking the body back where I just marched to the spot and everybody laughed.
Oh, Bud, really now?
Gee, isn't it heavenly out here?
Oh, gee, yeah. The breeze sure is swell.
Well, Bud, it looks like you and Joe are right back where you were 3 years ago, huh?
Yeah, I guess so, Father.
This railing's just where we stood, isn't it? When you and I had our fight?
Yes, about.
Hey, what's the phobia people have looking down from tall buildings? Gee, like, get it looking down at the water from up here.
Oh, that shouldn't worry you, Ellen. You swim like a fish. Now me, I should feel funny.
Well, you're about ready to go home, children. I don't want Judith to worry.
Oh, yeah. All right, Mr. Cunningham.
It's been such a heavenly day.
Bud, wait a minute.
Come on, Joe.
Wait a minute. There are a couple things I want to say.
Look, now later, Joe, Ellen and Father,
Everybody knew Bud Owen couldn't swim. That is why when you disappeared, they thought I had pushed you off the pier and you drowned.
Oh, now.
Bud Owen couldn't swim. But this afternoon, when you thought you were all at a good, safe distance, I walked up to the beach club looking for you. And I saw you swimming in the pool.
Yeah, but I learned.
And your bandage was off. Well, start talking. Or do I do the talking to the cops?
Now listen, Joe, you've got to wait. You've got to give me time.
No one else in this town should be gladder to have Bud Owen come back than me. After all, I've taken plenty because he disappeared. But rather than let Mrs. Cunningham be fooled by your...
No, that's what I mean, Joe. You've got to give me time to square things. Just a little time.
Well, you better move fast, brother.
Now, Joe, no matter what you think you know, I haven't hurt anybody.
Not yet.
And if you give me time, maybe nobody will get hurt. I went to Mr. Burrow the next morning and talked about everything, about how people were making cracks at him, about the $10,000 reward, and the whole mess. I knew things were moving awfully fast, and I told Mr. Burrow he had to help me. That night, when she finished up her coffee, my mother said she was awfully tired. My father, David, saw her upstairs to bed. I looked out the window and saw Mr. Burrow's car pull up to the curb in front of Ellen's house. I knew he was going to do everything he could, but by this time, I was scared. Well, at bedtime, my stepfather fixed some sandwiches and we drank some milk. Then he came up to my room with me and sat down to talk.
Well, I see your mother's changing your room around.
Yeah, I guess women like to fuss around and so forth.
That's a fact, and there's no use opposing them.
Yeah, you got that right.
By the way, what is your real name?
Bud Owen.
You don't need to be afraid of me. I've protected you so far.
Well, why have you?
I asked you first. What's your real name?
Bud Owen.
You're stubborn, aren't you? You know, at first I thought you'd work this little scheme out all by yourself or with Burl, but there's someone else involved, isn't there?
Who do you think?
What about that bandage?
Well,
take it off. Well. Not even a scar. I don't suppose you'd mind writing with it, now that it's healed.
No, I don't mind. What shall I write?
Well, suppose we take this little composition of yours on Alexander the Great. Here. Would you copy this? The sentence says on the top of page 3.
Why not?
And to make it a fair comparison, write your name. Bud Owen.
Bud Owen. Here you are.
Huh. So she taught you Bud's handwriting too.
Who did?
My wife. Do you think I didn't know what was going on? Every move she made gave her away. Why is she in such a rush to change her will?
I don't know why.
She thought she was being so smart, trying to pass you off, trying to trap me. But I was one person who knew you weren't Bud.
Yeah. What makes you so sure I'm not Bud?
I know. Isn't that enough? I know.
I see. Well, I don't think we'd better get my mother in on this.
Yes, I think perhaps we'd better. She's asleep. You'll have to wake her.
Mother? Mother. Why is she's mother? Cool. Oh, when I came to, I had an awful pain in my head. I was in my room on the bed, and Ellen and Joe and Mr. Burrow were there. For a minute, I didn't know what had happened. And then I remembered, oh, Mother, where's my mother?
She's all right, Bud. She's in the hospital. Why, he gave her enough of those sleeping pills to kill a horse. But she's all right now.
How do you feel, Bud?
Oh, all right, I guess.
It's a good thing you had us standing by tonight, son. Why, he had you trussed up like a turkey. He was going to hang you.
Oh, gee, Mr. Burrow. Oh, he must have been crazy. I guess he wanted to get both of us out of the way before Mother could change that will of hers.
Crying out loud, Bud. Why didn't you let me in on this? I thought...
Gee. I hated to do it, Joe, honest, but I had to. Somebody had to be the guinea pig.
It was my idea, Joe. I sent the note to Mr. Burrow. I really found Bud in that hash house.
Yeah, but if you let me know...
We knew that if Bud could fool you, if you thought he was a pony, he could fool everybody. Even David Cunningham.
Yeah, you see, Joe, for 3 years I suspected that guy. He pushed me off the pier that night when I was only a kid. But I knew I was a kid, and it was his word against mine, so I ran away. I kept putting off coming here, but I swore someday I'd trap him. And tonight, I did. Because when he said when he said he knew I wasn't Bud Owen, I knew he thought he'd killed me.
You took one whale of a chance tonight, Bud. He had you framed pretty. Another half hour, and we'd have found your mother dead. You strung up in that suicide note you wrote propped up on the dresser.
Suicide note? I just copied a sentence out of an old composition, something about Alexander the Great.
Alexander the Great? Well, listen to this. It is terrible what awful crimes are done for greed and ambition. Signed, Bud Owen.
Oh, sure. Well, you see, I was writing. What? I signed that? Oh my goodness. Well, that's about all. I didn't know how my mother would take it. Having my stepfather turn out to be such a heel. But once she got over the dope he slipped her, she was fine. As happy as a lark over me. And Joe and Ellen, they got married quick. Mary Louise and I are going together now, and I've been playing hard to get, but she can see right through me in a minute. I guess I never really could fool anybody.
Tonight's episode of The Visitor was brought to you by Warman Scared Scriptless Players and featured Joshua Dawes as Bud Owen, Donald B. Campbell as Mac Burrell and Mr. Sterling, Caitlin Hogan as David Cunningham and Al, Gwenda McPherson as Judith, Stacey Tates as Alan, Matt Vuchar as Joe and the Man in Diner, April Watson as Mary Louise, Allison Corpus as Mrs. Callahan. Suspense was produced and edited by Alan Neiman and Tom Neiman and directed by Judy Herbert for Warman Scared Scriptless Players. Join us again when we present another program from the golden age of radio. This is your announcer, Tom Neiman. Good night.